This page was created to teach Black history. Unfortunately, the American educational system was designed to exclude our real historical account, so we are here to dismantle it. It's time to enlighten those of us who have been kept in the dark. I am a Black man who didn't know enough about my own history, so I began to dig deeper and do my own research. Black history is American history, so I want people of all races and cultures to join together to learn our history as one. Here, I will share all of my findings. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe to Teaching Black History. The story of Ida B. Wells. Ida was born near Holly Springs, Mississippi on July 16, 1862. She was the eldest child of James Wells and Elizabeth Lizzie Warrenton. James Wells' father was a white man who impregnated an enslaved black woman named Peggy. Before dying, James' father brought him, age 18, to Holly Springs to become a carpenter's apprentice, where he developed a skill and worked as a hired-out slave living in town. Lizzie's experience as an enslaved person was quite different. One of 10 children born on a plantation in Virginia, Lizzie was sold away from her family and siblings and tried without success to locate her family following the Civil War. Before the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, Wells's parents were enslaved to Spires Bowen, an architect, and the family lived in the structure now called Bowen Gatewood House, which has become the Ida B. Wells Barnett Museum. After emancipation, Wells' father, James Wells, became a trustee of Shaw College. He founded a successful carpentry business in Holly Springs in 1867, and his wife Lizzie became known as a famous cook. Ida B. Wells was one of 8 children, and she enrolled in the historical Black Liberal Arts College, Rust College in Holly Springs, in September 1878. Tragedy struck the Wells family when both of Ida's parents died during a yellow fever epidemic that also claimed a sibling. Wells had been visiting her grandmother's farm near Holly Springs at the time and was spared. Following the funerals of her parents and brother, friends and relatives decided that the 5 remaining Wells children should be separated and sent to various foster homes. Wells resisted this proposition. To keep her younger siblings together as a family, she found work as a teacher in a black elementary school in Holly Springs. Her paternal grandmother, Peggy Wells, cared for them during the week while Wells was teaching. About 2 years after Wells' grandmother, Peggy, had a stroke and her sister died, Wells, at the invitation of an aunt in Mississippi, Fanny Butler, with her 2 youngest sisters, moved in with her. Soon after moving to Mississippi during her summer vacations, she attended summer sessions at Fisk University, a historical black college in Nashville, Tennessee. She held strong political opinions and provoked many people with her views on women's rights. At the age of 24, she wrote, "I will not begin at this late day by doing what my soul, serving men, weak, deceitful creatures, with flattering to retain them as escorts or to gratify a revenge." On May 4, 1884, a train conductor with the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad ordered Wells to give up her seat in the first-class ladies' car and move to the smoking car, which was already crowded with other passengers. The previous year, the Supreme Court had ruled against the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1875, which had banned racial discrimination in public accommodations. This verdict supported railroad companies that chose to racially segregate their passengers. When Wells refused to give up her seat, the conductor and two men dragged her out of the car. Wells gained publicity in Mississippi when she wrote a newspaper article for the Living Way, a black church weekly, about her treatment on the train. In Mississippi, she hired an African American attorney to sue the railroad. When her lawyer was paid off by the railroad, she hired a white attorney. She won her case on December 24, 1884, when the local circuit court granted her a $500 award. The railroad company appealed to the Tennessee Supreme Court, which reversed the lower court's ruling in 1887. It concluded, "We think it is evident that the purpose of the defendant in error was to harass with a view to this suit, and that her persistence was not in good faith to obtain a comfortable seat for the short ride." Wells was ordered to pay court costs. Her reaction to the higher court's decision revealed her strong convictions on civil rights and religious faith. As she responded, "I felt so disappointed because I had hoped such great things from my suit for my people. Oh God, is there no justice in this land for us?" On the morning of March 9th, 1892, 75 men wearing black masks took Moss, McDowell, and Stewart, Ida's three friends, from their jail cell at the Shelby County Jail to a Chesapeake and Ohio rail yard 1 mile north of the city and shot them dead. After the lynching of her friends, Wells began investigating lynchings using investigative journalism techniques and interviewing people associated with lynchings. After conducting greater research, Wells published The Red Record in 1895, a 100-page pamphlet with more detail describing lynchings in the United States since the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. It also covered black people's struggles in the South since the Civil War. During slavery time, she noted that whites worked to repress and stamp out alleged race riots or suspected slave rebellions, usually killing black people in far higher proportions than any white casualties. Once the Civil War ended, white people feared black people, who were in the majority in many areas. White people acted to control them and suppress them by violence. During the Reconstruction era, white people lynched black people as part of mob efforts to suppress black political activity and reestablish white supremacy after the war. They feared Negro domination through voting and taking office. Wells Barnett urged black people in high-risk areas to move away to protect their families. She noted that whites frequently claimed that black men had to be killed to avenge their assaults upon women. She noted that white people assumed that any relationship between a white woman and a black man was a result of rape. But given power relationships, it was much more common for white men to take sexual advantage of poor black women. She stated, "Nobody in this section of the country believes the old threadbare lie that black men rape white women." Wells connected lynching to sexual violence, showing how the myth of black man's lust for white women led to murder of African American men. Wells Barnett gave 14 pages of statistics related to lynching cases committed from 1892 to 1895. She also included pages of graphic accounts detailing specific lynchings. She noted that her data was taken from articles by white correspondents, white press bureaus, and white newspapers. The Red Record had far-reaching influence in the debate about lynchings. Southern horrors and the Red Record's documentation of lynchings captured the attention of Northerners who knew little about lynching or accepted the common explanation that black men deserved this fate. According to Equal Justice Inactive, African Americans were lynched in the South alone between 1877 and 1950, of which 25% were accused of sexual assault and nearly 30% murder. Generally, Southern states and white jurors refused to indict any perpetrators for lynchings, although they were frequently known and sometimes shown in the photographs being made more frequently of such events. Wells Barnett concluded that perhaps armed resistance was the only defense against lynching. On June 27, 1895, in Chicago at Bethel AME Church, Wells married attorney Ferdinand L. Barnett, a widower with 2 sons. Barnett was a prominent attorney, civil rights activist, and journalist. Like Wells, he spoke widely against lynchings and for the civil rights of African Americans. In addition to Barnett's 2 children from Ferdinand's previous marriage, the couple had 4 more. Frederick Douglass praised Wells' work, giving her introductions and sometimes financial support for her investigations. When he died in 1895, Wells was perhaps at the height of her notoriety, but many men and women were against a woman taking the lead in black civil rights at a time when women were not seen as, and often not allowed to be, leaders by the wider society. She also was passionate about women's rights and suffrage. She was a spokeswoman and an advocate for women being successful in the workplace, having equal opportunities, and creating a name for themselves. During World War I, the U.S. government placed Wells under surveillance, labeling her a dangerous race agitator. She defied this threat by continuing civil rights work during this period with such figures as Marcus Garvey and Madam C.J. Walker. Wells Barnett explained that the defense of white women's honor allowed Southern white men to get away with murder by projecting their own history of sexual violence onto black men. Her call for all races and genders to be accountable for their actions showed African American women that they can speak out and fight for their rights. By portraying the horrors of lynching, she worked to show that racial and gender discrimination are linked, furthering the black feminist cause. Wells began writing her autobiography, Crusade for Justice, but never finished the book. Wells died of kidney failure in Chicago on March 25, 1931, at the age of 68.